Here at Carbon Scoring, we take Spider-Man pretty seriously. So when we say a figure might be the best Spidey ever, well, that's a big deal. So how does the Sentinel Peter B Parker match up against the best of the best? We're going to break it down into 5 categories and answer the question, is this the best Spider-Man figure ever? Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics history and action figures. And let me tell you, ever since I got this thing, I have not been able to put it down. This figure is of a quality that doesn't come along very often, so let's put it through its paces, beginning with the sculpt. When it comes to sculpting, I'm really looking for 2 factors. First, does it represent the version of the web-slinger it's designed to? And second, if all you saw was the silhouette, would you know it was Spider-Man? As this version of Spidey is meant to represent his appearance in Into the Spider-Verse, well, it's absolutely perfect. The suit has a texture that evokes the more rubbery feel of the movie instead of a cloth costume. The shape of the head is fully accurate to the film, as is the overall body type. As we look at the shoulders and arms, we can see the stylized tapering from the bigger shoulders to the thinner arms, all the way down to those fantastic spidery fingers. Personally, I prefer a lanky Spidey to a stockier one, so for me, this version captures that well. He's muscular but not bulky, more gymnast than bodybuilder but still strong. There is one funky aspect of the sculpt on the back of the legs, but this is going to make more sense later. 3 factors on any Spider-Man that have to be sculpted perfectly are the eyes and the spider symbols on the front and back. These eyes successfully managed to replicate the animated look, while also hitting that middle ground between the classic smaller eyes of Ditko and Romita and the neoclassical huge eyes of McFarlane. The front spider symbol is crisp and the correct size, something that so many figures screw up. On the back, we have a much more comic-styled spider compared to the Granddaddy Longlegs versions from the films. The 2 abdominal pieces, thinner for the Peter from Miles' universe and a little fluffier for Peter B, are different enough without disrupting the classic tapering lines of Spidey's suit. You can really tell the difference when they're side by side. Finally, the silhouette. Ooh, that's nice. Even in a relatively static pose, that just screams Spider-Man. So for sculpting, I'm giving this one a solid 4.5 Steve Ditkos. Now let's look at the paint applications. Just look at this thing. We all know Spidey's costume is red and blue, but there are literally thousands of shades of these colors. But these are nearly perfect. The red pops without being too sharp. The blue is dark, but still reflects a brightness through the sculpted shading. For a company like Sentinel, which hasn't been in the action figure game very long, the fine detail of their paint job is remarkable. The web lines are tightly in the grooves and are a different shade from the black of the spider emblem. The edges are sharp, particularly where the red and the blue meet. But where I'm most impressed is with the different types of paint used. While the red and blue are a flat or matte finish, the white of the eyes and the black outline are a gloss finish. That really sets the eyes apart and makes them stand out, particularly in certain lighting. Hard to improve much on paint application. That gets a full 5 Jazzy Johnny Romitas. If you thought the paint was good, wait till you see the articulation. While there's nothing particularly revolutionary here, no secret joints or crazy Revoltech stuff, the articulation just works. The double-jointed knees and elbows are both pinless, which makes a really big difference in the overall look of the figure. Plus, the ball joints down at the ankles and at the wrist are remarkably subtle. Oh, and remember those funky hamstrings? They allow for this much articulation. But I think I'm most impressed by these shoulders. The look of the shoulders is absolutely crucial to the overall sculpt and silhouette of the figure, and Sentinel has managed to create some of the best range of motion of any action figure I own, without intrusive butterfly sections or annoying gaps. This allows for some of the most spidery poses possible. But does he pass the ultimate articulation litmus test? can he get into the anatomically impossible McFarlane pose from the cover of Amazing Spider-Man issue 301. Whoa, that is as close to perfect as I have ever gotten a figure. But the biggest thing, and it's hard to get this to come across on video, is just how good this thing feels in your hands. Right out of the package, the joints are so smooth. They move easily, but with enough tension to hold any pose you put it in. It is truly a joy to fiddle with. I've been playing with this thing non-stop for a week, and the joints are just as smooth and buttery now as when I first got it. Again, you just can't beat this articulation. He gets the full 5 McFarlanes. For the accessories, you might want to write this down. Okay, we got 2 masked heads, regular and wide-eyed surprised. We've got 3 unmasked heads, Blonde Peter from Miles' Dimension, and 2 different Peter Bs, goofy looking and even more goofy looking. Plus 8 sets of hands. You got your fists and your slappers, plus some web holding hands. We can do fingers spread or thwippy hands with the webs coming out. We can do a little typing on the keyboard and, of course, enjoying a cup of coffee. But my personal favorites are the wall crawling hands, with each of the individual joints alternating between flexed and extended to recreate what it would actually look like to be putting pressure against a surface. Let's not forget the webs. We've got the straight and the I'm holding back the subway version. But this thing didn't come in a box this big because of a bunch of hands and webs. Remember how awesome it was when the first Spider-Man movie figure came with this phenomenal gargoyle sculpted accessory? Yeah. To say this thing is huge is a bit of an understatement. This isn't the kind of thing you put in your home. It's something you build your home around. So for accessories, we're gonna go with 3.5 web shooters. Wait, why so low? Well, it's because the Mafex Peter B Parker came with soft goods, so we could convert Hobo Peter into the Amazing Spider-Man. And finally, cost. Yeah, this one's gonna sting a little. If you bought Hasbro's Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man new off the shelf, it would have cost you about $25. The Mafex comic version Spidey was pricier, and that would set you back a full Benjamin. But the Sentinel Spidey, the one with the gargoyle base, was $180. That essentially makes this figure unobtainable for the vast majority of collectors. So as far as cost goes, I can only give it 2.5 Stan Lees. You can make the argument that this is the best Spider-Man action figure ever, but what you can't argue is that the Spectacular Spider-Man is the best Spidey cartoon of all time, and I'll tell you all about it in this video. In the meantime, ring that notification bell, give me a like, and hit subscribe for more fun from Carbon Scoring.